Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Jalen Brunson. You even get the tunnel? That's awesome. Here you go, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Jalen, welcome back to Springfield.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Now, before we get into your incredible journey, your incredible career, all the way back to high school and the first time I saw you play up at Springfield College, I'm mostly curious about the last 6 weeks of your life, which, as a guy who's been some places and seen some things and won some games, I have to imagine that life since that magical night in April when the Wildcats beat Michigan, your life has been crazy. Can you walk us through some of the things that, like the way that you've had to change your lifestyle since then?
Well, honestly, my lifestyle hasn't really changed.
Yeah.
I try to stay the same person. I try to just do everything as normal as possible. There's obviously been a lot of things that's happened, so I've been adjusting to it, but I've tried to stay the same, but I'm really excited about what's about to come ahead.
Now, you try to stay the same, but everything changes in that late night in June when number 33 overall, your name gets read, you and 3 other Wildcats. I mean, what an incredible night. So let's talk about that day, about the way that draft night and draft day sort of affects everyone differently. What was your draft night like?
Well, I woke up like with jitters, obviously, and I try to do everything as normal as possible. I tried to not to think about what's about to come ahead. So I worked out in the morning. I was with my friends from high school. They all flew in. I spent time with them, not to really think about or worry about what's going to happen tonight. And then once I went with my family and friends to a place where we watched the draft, that's when it really hit me, and that's when I really started to get anxious and get nervous, and because this is what I worked for my entire life. And, but once I heard my name called, it was filled with emotion, filled with joy, and then I was ready to get back to work.
And because it was the Mavericks, and because you grew up such a big Steve Nash fan,
Yep.
word around the campfire is that number 13 is on purpose, that you're going to be wearing. How much courage did it take for Jalen Brunson to ask for that number? Was that a moment for you, like, here we go, I'm going to do this, here we go?
Honestly, I didn't think I was going to be able to get it. I didn't know if they would let me. I was kind of, like you said, hesitant to ask for 13. But I used to wear 13 way before high school, way before college. And it was the number I wore everywhere.
Yeah.
That was my number. And then just to go back to it, it's pretty special.
And now, speaking of high school, the first time I saw you play was a handful of years ago at Springfield College at the Hoop Hall Classic, one of the great showcase tournaments, events in all of prep basketball. And since that night, when you really announced yourself sort of on a national stage, it felt like that was one of the experiences where people started truly understanding the power that Jalen Brunson could have. It seems like your game has, I mean, you're obviously stronger because you're bigger and you're older, but what about that experience playing Findlay Prep as a public school kid? What about that experience maybe helped you to realize that you were going to be able to name your spot?
I'm trying to remember that night. All I remember is losing. Everything we lost that game, and that's all I remember. But I think it comes from before that. Even though I played on the national stage that day, it came before that. My confidence has always become from my work ethic.
Yeah.
And so no matter where I was, no matter where I played, who we played,
Right.
I always had confidence in myself because I knew how hard I worked. And so honestly, once I got there, I kind of felt, okay, I'm on a national stage. I can really make a name for myself. But it came from way before that. It came from the days where no one was watching. And I'll always make sure that that's how it is always working hard, always making sure that my mind's in the right place for myself.
And Jalen, you talk about those days when it felt like no one was watching, but when my dad was watching me brick things off the back in my backyard, that was just my dad watching me brick stuff. Someone was always watching for you because of your father is an NBA, is an NBA veteran, coached at the collegiate level. Can you talk a little bit about growing up with an NBA dad?
It was fun. It was fun. I got to experience a lot of things that a lot of kids don't get to experience. Being my dad was a journeyman in the NBA, instead of moving around everywhere, we stayed in New Jersey where we lived most of my life. And he was in different cities playing, so that was probably the toughest part about it.
Sure.
But just to be able to have a dad who experienced so much and then had a vision for me to do better than him is really special. And he's continued to this day. This morning, before I even got here, he made sure I got up and worked out before I got on the flight to come out here. Yeah, so he's always making sure that I'm working hard, and I'm always making sure that my mind's right. But he's definitely pushed me, and he's definitely done a lot for me.
That's special. That's special. And I think about the way that when I talk to a lot of the guys, I have one of the best jobs in the world because I get to gather information from people who are playing this game at the highest level on the planet. And when I think about the cities that the greats come from, you straddle two of those. You have Philly, right? Cherry Hill, right across the river, and then Chicago.
Yep.
Can you talk about what that's like combined for you being able to get a very distinct style of Philly ball and then going to play in Chicago, another very distinct style of ball? Did that help your game a little bit?
You have no idea. Chicago basketball is just tremendous. I actually had the opportunity to go play in 3 state finals in a row, sophomore year, junior year, senior year. My sophomore year, we lost to Jabari Parker's team. And then my junior year, we lost to Jalil Okafor's team. So every year, there was a bigger challenge. And then my senior year, we played the Finley Prep.
Yeah.
We played Tyler Eulis's team in Chicago. There were so many different teams where there were just so many players you see who are in the NBA now. And it was always a challenge. But I think Chicago basketball definitely helped me.
And when it came to recruitment, now you and I have both spent time with Coach Jay Wright. So I know how electric and how magnetic he is as a person. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine how motivating that is to sit in front of him and to trust him going into a big game. But you narrowed it down to Villanova, in the Philadelphia area, one of your hometowns, and Illinois, right near one of your other hometowns in Chicago, in Champaign. What about what Coach Wright was bringing to the table made you decide that it was a Wildcat versus an Illini?
Honestly, it wasn't really Coach Wright. Coach Wright's great, and I love him, but he wasn't the deciding factor. It was the team. It was Ryan Arcidiacono, it was Josh Hart, it was Phil Booth, Mikal Bridges, all those guys, and obviously the class I was coming in with. But those players, the feel I had around them walking into the practice facility, walking into the locker room, before I was even committed, like I was like, this is my brother. These are my brothers. These are the guys like I'm going to play with. Like that was the reason why I went there. It was because of those guys, plain and simple. Thinking about that and understanding that, as many of the kids sitting out here, even if they don't play at a high level, if they decide to go to college, there is an actual feel you get when you step onto the right place for you. And to know that also included, and I'm sure eventual Hall of Famer and Coach Jay Wright just sort of helped a little bit. Yeah. And I'm always fascinated by the relationship between particularly point guards and head coaches. And so can you talk about the way that in your 3 years, your relationship with Coach Wright had developed? Well, Coach Wright, he was a point guard. So he always got on, my freshman year it was Ryan and me. And then after that, it was just me. He got on all the players, but I was the guy with the ball most of the time. So he always just got on me. And there were days where I couldn't handle it anymore. But I persevered. I always, made sure that he just wanted the best for me. He was just being a coach. He wasn't being a regular guy on the street that wasn't just yelling at you. He was being a coach, and he wanted the best for you. So I always just never took it personal, and he just continued to push me, and I guess we got what we wanted.
Yeah, 2 times.
Yeah. Yep.
Jalen, I want to talk about those 2 times because I'm about to start a sentence with a pretty awesome clause. Your first national championship, like how many people can say that, right? Your first one happened in one of the most dramatic fashions that any of us have ever seen, with the incredible screen and Arch's pass and the jumper to win it. Talk to me about that as a freshman. as a 19-year-old who just grinded through an entire, and then that happens your first year. What was that like? How did that change you as a person? And then I have to ask, now that we're here and you're a Dallas Maverick, was there any temptation to leave after that?
There was no temptation to leave.
No?
No. I know the parents were like this. My goal in college was to graduate. And actually, a couple of days ago, I officially finished college. So graduated in 3 years. So I got that done. So that was my goal. But it honestly didn't change me. It didn't change it. It made me work even harder.
Did it?
Because as much as a competitor I am,
yeah,
like I just knew that that's not. I wanted more. Right. I wanted more. I got to taste it. I was like, I wanted more, and then that was the goal, is to finish college.
So then how, sophomore year, not getting there again, if the taste on your tongue your freshman year lit the fire even more, I can't imagine how bitter it must have felt not finishing, holding the trophy, cutting down the net sophomore year. Is that right?
It was tough.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I just, considering what was happened in the past, my senior year in high school, we won a state championship. And then that summer, I won a gold medal. And then my freshman year, I won a national championship. And then to finally lose, I'm just like, what is this?
Yeah.
Well, I was just, it was confusing. I didn't really, but that definitely fueled the fire for next year. And then, and the best part about it, we never talked about winning a championship. We always talked about being the best team we can be and focusing on how we can contribute to each other as people and teammates. And we never really talked about winning it.
So after this title, I want to go back just to draft night for a moment, because it wasn't just you. Like I had mentioned, you and 3 of your teammates were taken. That's a special moment. Was that a team moment, or is the draft for rookies and for young athletes, for college guys, is it such a personal family affair that there's really no communication with the other guys?
Oh, for us, no. We texted that night.
Did you?
We were texting each other in a group chat, just us 4. Like,
sure.
Of course, we talked to other teammates, but like just to go through it, we were just saying how each other were feeling.
Yeah.
And we got to talk. But it definitely felt like a team accomplishment, because, I mean, without each other, we probably wouldn't be in this situation. We made each other better every day in practice, and so we definitely helped each other out some way. But it's definitely a family moment as well. The reaction with your family and friends, it can't be explained. It was emotional. It was just it was just amazing. And it's a night that I'm never gonna forget.
Jalen, you know how in a group text there's always one guy who texts too much? It's just you and me. No one's listening.
It's me.
Was it?
Yeah,
was it you?
Yeah, I can talk too much. It's me.
All right. So you get drafted the next day. The expectation, and I tell this story a lot, Nate Robinson told me when he was sitting in your chair that the next day he expected a parade. He expected to be able to enjoy it. I've been drafted, look at me, here I am, let's get a parade. It doesn't work that way, does it? It's almost immediately on a plane and work begins. Was that difficult for you?
It wasn't difficult, no. Definitely. I'm doing something I love. It definitely was not difficult, but it was tough. I think the time when I got drafted, it was probably around 11:30, 12, around that time. And then I got to talk to Mark Cuban, Coach Carlisle, and then one of the people that worked for the Mavs to get ready to go to Dallas. And then, of course, I had to leave at 6 a.m. So it was 11:30, and then I barely had time to even think. And then I was on the flight to Dallas with my family.
So your dad doesn't have any excuse to ask you if you worked out that morning, right? There's no way that he can expect.
There's no way I was doing it now. No way.
I only have 2 questions left before all of these guys get to meet you over at the autograph table. And so I want to ask, when you get to Dallas, a place with so much history, with so many future Hall of Famers, has there been one veteran that has reached out yet and sort of let you know that the transition's going to be tough, but I've got you?
Not necessarily that, but I got to talk to Dirk. I got to talk to Harrison Barnes a little bit. So the veterans definitely have contacted me, and I got to spent some time with them, and it was great. But I think what really helps with me is just having a family, not just a dad, but having a family that's been through this. So it's definitely going to be not an easy transition, but just the experience, I think I'll have a pretty good help.
My last question, Jalen Brunson of the Dallas Mavericks, still sounds awesome to say. This time sitting here is very different than the last time you had a microphone at the Hall of Fame. You were in high school. Can you put this moment into context? What is this moment like for you sitting underneath all of the Hall of Famers and in front of all of these young faces and young fans?
It's honestly a blessing. Just to be able to see my favorite part of the Hall of Fame, the slam dunk area.
Yes.
That's my favorite part.
Is it?
Yeah. But it's surreal. And just to be here, just to talk to you and in front of these people, and it's something I get to experience, and it's something that I probably will never forget as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jalen Brunson.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Of course. Thank you so much.